We're glad you stayed with us. Welcome back. Cell phone tracking. What is it? Who's doing it? And why is it being done? Do you even care? Colin, we'll start with you.
Well, the reality of the matter is when it comes to modern technology, at some level you have to assume you're being tracked. Whether it's by Big Brother or your provider or somebody out there, it's going to happen. And I think there's two sides to the argument, right? So the first one is if you're not doing anything wrong, what do you have to worry about? I certainly don't care. By the same token, I think there is also a privacy argument to be made, which is that this data is being collected, right? Because it's just the way the technology works. But making it available to somebody to keep track of you if you're not doing anything nefarious, you should have a certain expectation of privacy as well, I think. So I think there is a very, very blurred line there. And the one thing that we found out, and I know that people will be all over the place with some of the leaks that have occurred, and not so much WikiLeaks, but the guy from the NSA. However, what came out of that is that some of these guys that have the power to have access to this data were doing it for reasons that had nothing to do with national security. They're tracking their ex-girlfriends and their ex-girlfriends' boyfriends and everything else. And I think that's where the privacy concern comes into play.
Yeah.
Well, the privacy concern comes into play not only for those that they are willingly tracking, but also the extraneous data that they pick up, because these are essentially fake cell towers that that your cell phone will go and ping,
right?
Just as a matter of the fact that you're near it.
Right.
So that if Colin Ploskaroo was driving down the road on let's say in the one, I guess the most recent one was in Montgomery County. You're driving down the road and this fake cell tower is there, and you got your cell phone on, and it's going to ping that tower, and
they're going to know
they're going to have information
there.
About you.
Right.
Is that okay? I don't know about that.
Well, and the funny thing about this, and I think there's more that goes into it. So a couple of years ago, I heard a piece where, and this was an NPR piece, but it actually had some folks, I think, from MIT or from Berkeley, one of the large technical schools.
Right.
They took some mobile devices and actually dissected the amount of data that a mobile device shares, which has nothing to do with connecting to your email, checking your location for map data or for GPS or any of that stuff. And they're literally sending megabytes per minute of data about your locations, about your calls, about everything else. And now a lot of that is related to applications that we sign up for. So, one thing that I found very interesting, the most hacked app, at least a couple of years ago, was the flashlight app. So you download one of these free flashlight apps that would turn the flash on your phone to use as a flashlight. And it asked you for permission to connect to your contacts, to your email, to your Facebook or other social media, whatever. What does a flashlight need your contacts for? And I found it very indicative, and that's one reason I've never installed one of these things. But a lot of this traffic that's being generated is actually not being monitored necessarily by the government. And I think the government does have, within certain boundaries, a legitimate concern for making sure that people who are on known terrorist lists, people who are known to be suspects for whatever reason, what their traffic is. Mm-hmm. By the same token, I think actually most of the nefarious tracking occurs from third parties that are trying to steal your identity, or trying to spam or spoof your contacts and do all kinds of other stuff.
So, in Maryland, apparently it's pretty widespread, the use of these. Maryland State Police, Howard County, Montgomery County, Baltimore County, Anne Arundel County. There's a lot of counties in Maryland that are using this technology and spending a lot of money to get it.
Well, the reality, though, think about this, though. You have number recognition technology that's on the speed cameras or on the cameras that are in speed zones and on school zones and everything. So there is a concern when it comes to your location.
Is it constitutional?
And that's a very good question, actually, Jim, because I don't think the Constitution or the founders of the Constitution, the framers of the Constitution, ever envisioned this level of tracking that we have available now.
We go back to the NSA person who was it? The person that
Right.
But
Yeah.
Big Brother is watching, whether we like it or not. Cookies on your computer, cookies on your iPad. People are following you wherever you go.
And
You know,
whatever you do.
And whatever you do, whatever you buy. I mean, you go to the grocery store, it knows what you're buying.
Well, and I think you're bringing up a very good point, and I think one that needs to be addressed. The argument always back on this is, well, if you're not doing anything wrong, then you have nothing to worry about.
Mm-hmm.
But what if the definition of what is wrong changes all of a sudden? What if, they certainly decide that just because you happen to have written an email that was in opposition to some political stand that somebody took or whatever else suddenly becomes illegal, then on a constitutional sense, you're not doing anything wrong, but suddenly you might become a criminal and they might start tracking you. And I think there is a concern there. Because I think anonymity should be guaranteed as long as you're not a criminal.
Well, the interesting thing is, and this is something I didn't realize till I started researching this topic, is this is not new technology. This has been in use. For example, Baltimore City Police admitted to the Baltimore Sun that they've used this technology in over 4,300 cases since 2007.
Which is outrageous considering how low the criminal rate or the crime rate in Baltimore is.
Well, I'm going to leave it to that. Okay. It's our Fast 5 3 panelists. 5 topics in 6 minutes. Stay with us here on the Flip Side.